petition number 2 in this case concerning Coleman children, a request for jurisdiction and removal. May I have the names of our participants, please?
The Heist lawyer guardian ad litem.
Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Graham.
Kelsey Grant with the department.
Ms. Berger.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ariel Berger here on behalf of Father Joshua Coleman. Josh, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Joshua Coleman.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Berger, do you want to confirm whether or not your client has received a copy of the petition and some of the other preliminary questions that I typically go through?
Yes, Your Honor, he has. He was able to review that. I was able to review that with him. And together we do have several paragraphs that we would like to admit today to go forward.
All right, and which paragraphs are those?
It would be 2, 3, 4, 11B, 12A, 15, and 24A. And if everyone is agreeable, that's what we would ask. If not, then my client would enter a no contest plea.
So is it 15A and 24A, or just 15, all of 15, and then 24A?
All of 15 and 24A.
Thank you. Right, very well. Did you confirm that he has a copy of the petition?
I have, Your Honor. We would waive a reading of that today.
Thank you. And did you happen to ask him if he knows if there's any other cases that concern the minor child named in this petition?
I did not. I did, however, confirm that he does not believe there to be any Native American heritage.
That was my next question. Thank you. Deputy Ames, would you swear in Mr. Joshua Coleman,
The
please?
whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, do you know if there's any other cases that concern this child, like child support or guardianship or any other cases out there?
No.
All right. Is that no, you don't know, or no, there are none?
There are none, and I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there are none.
Thank you. You're entitled to an attorney, which is why Ms. Berger's been provided to you. You would have her for all hearings in this proceeding. If you decide to retain your own attorney, that attorney will have to reach out to Ms. Berger to make sure that that person has all of the information. Okay?
Okay.
All right. She indicated on the record that you would like to admit to some of the paragraphs in the petition, and then she went through those numbers. Did you hear that okay?
Yes.
Is that what you wish to do?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Thomas, your position on the request?
Judge, at this time, we don't have Mr. Coleman established as the legal father. I know that DNA was set up, but then I don't think he was able to make that appointment because of the incarceration. So I'm not stating anything about the plea itself, but just whether we can take it at this time, given that he's putative, unless the parents are willing to get that on the record today and you do make him a legal father.
Very good. I understand. Option also would be for me to take it under advisement, I suppose. What are your thoughts, Ms. Heiss?
Boy, I would sure like to see that DNA test in the child's best interest, thinking long term. If the plea were offered, I don't think there's sufficient. We'd have to move to the no contest, but that'll be your next issue. But under advisement would be, I think, best case scenario.
All right. Ms. Berger, it sounds like it might be just simply easiest to reschedule Mr. Coleman until after his DNA test has occurred for further consideration on the plea. I don't want to have to put you through that if it's a negative DNA result. What are your thoughts?
I have no objection to that, Your Honor. Will that be able to be accomplished while he is incarcerated?
Yes, if we just can get an order stating that he is ordered to participate in that DNA testing, then I believe that we are able to coordinate that for him.
I am happy to do that. Mr. Coleman, are you going to be willing to participate in a DNA test?
Yeah.
All right. What we can do then is we'll reschedule your hearing. Thank you for answering our preliminary questions. I'm glad to see that you've been advised of what's happening and you have a copy of the petition. For purposes of our next proceedings, I'm hoping to have you back in about 3 weeks. I'm not sure if that'll be enough time for the DNA test result or not, but we'll at least allow you to check in and make sure that
I might be out of jail by then.
all right. We'll just have to make sure that you keep in contact with Ms. Grant. Do you have her contact information?
No. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Very good. So if you could keep her up to date on when you get released and coordinate that DNA test, that would be very useful.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so why don't we set this for, we'll come back on record at 1 o'clock on July 1st. July 1st
Yes.
at 1 o'clock. It'll probably look more like 1:15 by the time we get everybody back from lunch, but we'll shoot for 1 o'clock. Okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Coleman. That's all for your case for this morning. We wish you the best of luck. We'll see you July 1st.
Okay.
Preliminary hearing as it relates to the mother of the children, Ms. Noel Johnson. Welcome back, Mr. McFarland and Ms. Johnson.
Hi.
Your Honor.
All right, Mr. McFarland.
Mr. McFarland representing Ms. Johnson, need to have her introduced on the record.
We did that.
Okay. I know I wasn't here. so.
Actually, Ms. Johnson, can you give,
Hi, my name is Noelle Johnson, and I'm the mother of
thank you. Deputy Ames, would you swear her in?
children.
Thank you. All right. Mr. McFarland, did you want to address some of the?
I do. I had an opportunity to speak to my client last Friday. I went over her rights. We wish to enter a plea of no contest. I'll elaborate the reasons why. She does not need to have the petition read. She was served, Your Honor. There are possible issues of criminality and allegations of domestic violence been sent to the prosecutor's office, drug use on my client's behalf, criminal parental neglect, possibly with the child being born with drugs in the system is the allegation, and not visiting in the hospital when the child needs help. So those are issues, Your Honor, with potential criminality.
You just lost her. Oh, she's rejoined.
Here we are.
And I have gone over those issues which she would need assistance of in a case serviceman, but we've discussed that also.
Great.
And also there is going to be an issue regarding the parenting time since the child is currently in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My client has no transportation. So.
Did you ask her if she has any Native American heritage?
I did. She does not, but father does have Native American heritage on his mother's side of the family. She's been informed.
Ms. Berger took care of that on behalf of the client this morning. They denied any Native American heritage.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Johnson, did you hear the statements that your attorney made about you getting the petition and him going over some of the questions that we needed answered today?
Yes, I did. Yep, I've read it.
Do you agree with all the statements that he made?
Yes, I do.
All right, very well. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with the plea then, as long as Ms. Thomas agrees and Ms. Heiss thinks it's in the best interest of the children. Ms. Thomas?
I have no objection to it, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
Yes, I agree that it's in the best interest of the child.
All right, Ms. Johnson, if I accept your no contest plea, I'm essentially looking at the allegations in the petition as accurate. You won't have to make any affirmative statements to that effect, but I will consider that the petition is accurate as far as defining what the issues are in the case. Understand that?
Yes, I do.
Very good. All right, if I accept your plea, you are giving up the right to a trial by judge or trial by jury, the right to have the petitioner prove the allegations in the petition by a preponderance of the evidence, the right to have witnesses against you appear and testify under oath at trial, the right to cross-examine witnesses, and the right to have the court subpoena any witnesses that you believe could give testimony in your favor. Do you understand you'll be giving up or waiving the rights I just indicated to you if you enter a no contest plea?
Yes, I do.
In regard to the consequences of your plea, or in other words, what will happen, the court will do the following. Third, there will be continued investigation by the caseworker to see what the problems are in your family and how and whether they can be solved. The court could dismiss the case if there's no need for the court to be involved. If it appears that there is a problem that may be solved, the court can make the children temporary wards of the court, place them with a mother or father or with relatives or in a foster home, and order programs for you and your children, such as counseling, drug and alcohol treatment, assessments, and parenting classes. If it appears that you will not be able to provide a proper home for the children in the reasonably foreseeable future, the court could terminate your parental rights. In regard to the plea itself, the plea can also later be used as evidence in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights. Do you understand the consequences of your plea, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any questions about any of the information I've given you so far?
No, I do not.
Are you under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or anything else that can get in the way of you understanding what you're doing this morning?
No, not at all.
Is anyone making you admit to the petition by way of no contest plea?
No, they have not.
Has anyone threatened you in any way to get you to enter a no contest plea?
No,
You say your decision to enter a no contest plea is one you made of your own free will?
yes,
Thank you. The court accepts of the reasoning behind the request for the no contest plea as being potential criminal liability. As to the factual basis of the plea, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. If Ms. Grant can please just provide that factual basis. Yep. Good morning, Ms. Grant.
Good morning.
What is your role in this matter?
I have been the ongoing worker that has been assigned to work with the family.
And you are the one who drafted the petition that is in front of the court today?
I did.
And in your petition, as far as the allegations are concerned, how did you get that information?
Sure. So I was assigned, there was an investigation that took place. The case was confirmed for abuse and neglect and open to me in about mid-April from the investigator, Dawn. We had family team meetings, all of those allegations were discussed. Then we went forth and talked about like what needed to do to rectify that situation. Additionally, I am pretty familiar with Ms. Johnson and her entire family due to her previous children being removed from her care and placed in a guardianship.
For this child that's subject to the petition, was the child born with substances that came back positive, like in the umbilical cord?
Yes, this child was born positive with methamphetamine, amphetamine, THC, and morphine.
Was the child immediately released to the parents upon birth, or did the child need additional medical treatment?
No, the child was born premature. The child was born at 32 weeks, and due to that, he was actually transported to the Toledo NICU, where he stayed for about 6.5, 7 weeks. He was on a little air to help him breathe for a little while. However, that rectified itself pretty quickly. However, he remained on a feeding tube for quite a while. It was a struggle for him to gain and maintain weight.
Did the parents visit consistently?
They did not. For the most part, the entire time they were in the Toledo NICU, I believe the total amount of time that the parents visited of those days was about 8 to 10 times. And that was prior to our family team meeting, and they always visited on the weekends, super late at night, like 9 p.m., would only stay for an hour or two and then leave. After FTM, they talked about how transportation and gas and money was an issue. We provided them with a $50 gas card. Putative father's mother, Angela, does have had a vehicle at the time, and she was able to help transportation. However, even with the $50 gift card, they only went down, I want to say maybe 3 times after that before the child was discharged a couple weeks later.
And during your investigation, were there instances of reported domestic violence to law enforcement?
Yes, several. So the first was during the birth of the child. Hickman Hospital had some concerns regarding mom and dad's interactions in the ER, called in a welfare check for mom following that, and also alerted the Toledo NICU due to some domestic violence concerns. Following that, there had been a couple of times where police have had to respond to the couple's apartment where they reside with Josh's family for domestic violence incidents between the two of them. And then additionally, I learned after submitting this petition that the family actually was evicted from their house due to the amount of law enforcement coming to the home and domestic violence.
And the parents, were they also on probation for other criminal acts?
Yes, both are actively on probation right now. Through most of the case, they have had active warrants since mid to late April, despite several encouragements of me telling them to go and turn themselves in. They hadn't. They had other interactions with law enforcement that included the father picking up new charges when him and mom fled police when they tried to stop them, knowing they had warrants, and allegations of him breaking into a house where he was also charged with additional felonies. Then he was arrested last Monday, I believe. They were called once again to the apartment, which was the day they were to be out of the apartment for a domestic altercation. There's no supplemental police report to that, but he was arrested then for the warrant he had.
As relates to the child, has the child had any medical conditions resulting from the exposure to substances in utero?
He does have a diagnosis of in utero drug exposure. The Toledo NICU was unable to correlate his premature with any substance abuse proceedings because of how premature he was born. However, documentations show that he has had tremors that are similar to drug exposed babies afterwards that go away on their own. He has a diagnosis, and I can't think of what the actual name is because it's very long and technical, but it's where his left eye is off-centered. That is going to require probably ophthalmology moving forward. There are concerns for developmental and neurological delays. The pediatrician has referred them for an assessment through early on to have early on complete a thorough assessment, and from there they will determine if he's going to need a specialist or not, or if it's something that can be easily corrected with early on interventions.
And since the child, Miss Johnson did effectuate a valid power of attorney for her brother to have the child, is that correct?
She did. We did not know what her legal status would be when the child was discharged. She, at the time, was very wanting to do services and cooperative. We signed a power of attorney for her brother and his LTP to be able to care for the baby in case they were in and out of incarceration. Much as it stands right now, you know, Noel does still continue to have the outstanding warrant, and neither have completed any services or requirements since the case opening in mid-April.
And has Miss Johnson provided any financial support for the child or any like necessary materials, diapers, formula, anything like that?
Very minimum to none. There was $30 that were cash apped when the placement asked for 40 because the can of formula costs $40 that he is on. They provided 30. They only provided maybe a pack of diapers and some clothes. She claims multiple times that she has things to give me, but that hasn't taken place. And when she has seen the child just the one time, that was all she provided.
All right. And then as it relates to parenting time, what is the current recommendation?
The current recommendation is for supervised parenting time. Due to the distance, we are asking for once a week and then also FaceTime visits. Noelle is actually very sporadically consistent with FaceTime, and the reason I say sporadically consistent is because it could be a couple of days, but then she'll follow it up with like 3 or 4 actually calling and checking. My main concern with that is that some of those visits are less than 2 minutes. Some, most, if not almost all, are less than 5. She has only seen the child once in person, despite there's been 3 attempts to set up, whether there's transportation issues. She did attend 1 in person. However, I actually personally last Wednesday was willing to transport her to a visit and supervise for her. However, I had told her that she was going to need to confirm ahead of time, since it was going to be a drive to Lansing to meet the placement halfway. I had told her on Monday, we talked about it. We talked about it on Tuesday, even after hours at like 6 or 7 o'clock, that, hey, you need to confirm with me by 9:30, we need to leave. I'm not gonna have the child travel an hour and a half to meet if you don't confirm. She did not confirm in time, even with warnings in the morning to confirm to me, and did not reach out until about 10-15 minutes after the cutoff time to confirm was. So we're asking that it be supervised and then that she has to check in prior to that.
Okay. And about how much time prior to the scheduled visit time would the check-in need to be?
At least 2 hours would be ideal, especially with the transportation and how far it's going to be. Whether that's her driving, the child driving, meeting halfway, the child coming to Adrian, whatever that circumstance looks like.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions of Ms. Grant at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Grant, do you think that you could conduct an FTM to arrange a visitation plan with the parents before we come back for disposition?
Yes, the foster care worker, and I can definitely work on that.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. McFarland?
You took one question away. That was going to be my suggestion also. I presume you're concerned with that delegation of parental rights, that's only good for 6 months and mom could revoke it at any time. Is that your concern?
That is correct.
As far as the services mother might need would be, I presume would be a drug assessment and taking positive action towards that. Would that be true?
Yes, she's on probation right now where she's actually required to drug screen twice weekly. She's supposed to be in substance abuse treatment to be compliant with her probation, the history of domestic violence, counseling, and just showing some stability.
And you said there's a warrant for arrest, correct?
Correct.
So I guess turning herself in would be another requirement.
I have actually asked her that since mid-April, and that was one reason why she didn't want to come in person today when I offered to pick her up.
We don't want her arrested en route to visit a child or anything of that nature, right?
Correct.
Okay, next, she's gonna need some assistance with housing. Is that something that can be provided?
So we have referred her, she has been involved with several programs, just never followed through, WIC, housing help, DHS assistance.
Well, we're talking about court ordered things in the case service plan that would be ordered that by both parties to head towards a positive housing situation. You believe that'd be positive, correct?
Yes.
She might need transportation help, parenting classes also, correct?
Correct.
And we can discuss anything else at family team meeting that might be necessary.
Correct.
And she can presumably start these services before we even come back to court for the disposition, which is her being ordered into these services. She can start, correct?
Correct. That's what the open case was trying to avoid, was coming here. Yes.
I know even though she's local, she doesn't have good internet, as we see here. What's a good way for her to initiate contact with you to get started?
So she has my phone number. She's been, periodically, the problem is when you try to reach out to her, sometimes her phone is completely off. She doesn't charge it very often. It's dead quite a bit. Even when you're talking to her on the phone, it'll cut off and she'll say that she didn't charge her phone. So having that done. Since the family was evicted on 6/3, I have no updated address. She told me she would get me an updated address. I don't have one of those yet, but.
And do you have an email address for her?
I do.
Okay. Employment, assisting her with employment opportunities. That's also probably an issue we'll be discussing at family team meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I can't think of anything further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions, thank you.
Very good. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Grant. You may return to your seat. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from on the factual basis of the plea or some of the placement and visitation questions that were addressed?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, my client, I can tell you what her concerns are, Your Honor. I don't know it's necessary that she testify. Her brother is in Grand Rapids. She's here local. I think the family team meeting, that's where everybody gets together to discuss. My client's still here?
Yes.
Okay, where the parties will sit together and discuss how visitations are going to work. Because my client would like to, she may have transportation up to Lansing, may be able to go to Grand Rapids, so how that can be equally shared. Also, she wants to participate in any doctor visits, consultations, if that be by Zoom or in person. She wants to be able to fully participate with that. The questions I asked regarding services are what she and I discussed, and she agrees that need to be addressed. I think a family team meeting where everybody gets together to kind of put this into writing is a good way to address the case service plan, which is that roadmap she'll be following for reunification with her and the child.
Okay, Ms. Heiss, anything before I make the findings?
Your Honor, I don't know that a bond has been created between this child and his mother.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, you have to stop unmuting. It's interrupting our proceedings. You would be able to talk with your attorney and offer any testimony if you like, but we're trying to make a record where we can tell who's talking when, and we've got to cut down on interruptions. So please leave your device muted unless you are actively looking to contribute, which can be done by raising your Zoom hand or just letting me know, and we can try to make some time for that in a bit.
Okay, thank you.
I just think in working outside of the hearings, how can we balance the warrant with visits? I think she should take care of the warrant and then start the bond with the child. Now she's offering visits or maybe transportation to Lansing or Grand Rapids, but it's going to be a conflict for even the placement to not have her face her warrants. So that would be one comment. Let me just check here. Yes, I think that addresses my concerns, Your Honor.
Would you like to respond to that, Mr. McFarland?
I'm not disagreeing that warrants have to be addressed, but with a newborn, I think they need the attention of a mother. If there's not a good bond, as frequent or more frequent, to form that bond. I don't know that by Zoom with a newborn, you can really form a bond. They can hear a voice. I think you're going to have in-person bonding. I don't know of any other way to do that. I don't know that we should hinge the outstanding warrant on denying her parenting time. I don't think that's an appropriate response, John. So we're going to ask for as frequent parenting time as possible in person. And I think that's what she believes, that there is a bond that has been formed. And I guess I will then ask her if she wishes to contribute.
Very well. Did you wish to present anything on the removal question today? You have the option, obviously, to waive that if you wish, but if you wish to present testimony, that's also something I could consider.
Let me just question my client. I did ask her if she's okay with the placement, but we confirm that on the record.
Go ahead whenever you're ready. She has been sworn.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How would you like me to address you today on the record?
With what exactly about the placement?
How do you want me to call you? What do you want me to call
You can call me Noel.
you? Okay, Noel. Are you okay with the placement with your brother in Grand Rapids?
Yes, I am. I'd rather him be with family than with a foster family. That he's not, that aren't related, that aren't relatives.
You've heard the concern of the worker and the guardian ad litem regarding you addressing your outstanding warrant, so you're not stopped en route, arrested around the child or anything like that. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, I do need to take care of my warrants. I agree that needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. I do agree.
And the court would like to schedule a family team meeting where you and the worker and perhaps your brother would sit and discuss what transportation might look like, what the various services that we discussed and I placed on the record might look like for you. Are you willing to participate in that?
Yes, I am. Yes, definitely.
Can you do that in person here in Adrian? Since you're not coming through really good on Zoom?
Yeah, yes, I can. Yep. Yes, I can. I can participate in Adrian whenever I need to. Yes.
Is that all you wish to contribute for today, knowing that you'll have that family team meeting coming up to add anything that you wish?
Yes, and also with his specifically his early on appointment coming up Wednesday. I know that one of them, Maddie and my brother had let me know that it takes place at their home. The only thing I would like to address is that all right if I am able to make it, is that all right for me? Do I have permission to go up to their home for that specifically and then go to the appointment after that at his pediatrician at 11:30? If I can say that so depending when the family team meeting is, in regards to turning myself in, I just want to be able to make that family team meeting in person and go to that early on appointment before I turn myself in.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor. I guess I would call the worker when I have an opportunity, just ask about that meeting.
And I was told by the worker, by Chelsea, that that was all up to the judge. I had actually called her previous to our court date this morning, and that's what I was told, that it needed to be addressed with the judge.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Do you agree with that, Ms. Grant?
I told her it would all depend on what her visitation would look like after today's hearing of what was decided.
Well, typically, participation with medical appointments is not considered part of visitation, and parents are encouraged to participate in that. So I would expect, unless you can show me a risk of harm associated with her participation, that she would be involved in that. Do you agree?
No, I've encouraged her to be a part of all of his pediatrician appointments, rather that's a place of calling, but again, if she can charge her phone or be available, that would be great.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess specifically, she would like to attend this at the brother's house where it's going to be held, and then go to the doctor's appointment. Are you okay with that?
I would be okay with it. I'd want to double check with the placement. I know their big concern was, they've had some concern with her knowing their exact address just because of history and threats that were made against them. So
I suppose it could be done at a public library or a public place also, correct?
that is where supervised visits have been taking
But I
place.
mean, this meeting,
I'm sure I know that early on here typically does it in a facility if needed, so I'm sure that can be arranged if needed.
But can I don't know.
Please don't interrupt, ma'am. You may have a chance, but you do realize that anybody can Google anybody's name and find
I mean,
it.
yes.
So it's not something that we can really hide.
I understand.
Nothing further.
Thank you. I would expect that the mother would be invited if there's obviously if there's a risk of harm associated with her attending any kind of medical appointments, then that would be an issue. But unless otherwise noted, which I have not really heard today, other than the warrant, if she gets arrested when she shows up there, then so be it. But hopefully that would happen outside the house, and we'll just ask everyone to be cognizant of that. But if she can participate by Zoom, that might be a better choice. But I would expect her to be able to participate with that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Ms. Thomas, anything before I make the findings?
Your Honor, I would, as relates to the early on assessment, I would ask, I think that it's maybe up to placement as to whether permit mother to be in person at their home without a professional there, as relates to the early on assessment. And typically, I know that early on can be in the community when they do their assessments, but typically they do home-based in the child's most natural environment to reduce any stresses that a child may have during the assessment. And so I would just ask us to be maybe a little cognizant of that and give the department a little discretion as relates to that particular appointment. But obviously we understand the other medical appointments that take place in facilities and the responsibility for the department to inform mom on that point. But with it, I have nothing else to add.
Ms. Heiss?
I think it's all been addressed. I have nothing further.
Thank you. All right, yes, we can also give a nod to the fact that there is a power of attorney already in place, giving the placement the authority to make those decisions. So I do appreciate that perspective, Ms. Thomas. Thank you for reminding me of that. And I will leave it in the discretion of the placement as far as coordinating Ms. Johnson's participation in those therapeutic sessions. I know they can be regular and reoccurring, and we'll leave it to them to decide whether or not and how Ms. Johnson can be a part of that. As it relates to the plea, the child was put at risk as a result of mother's drug use while in utero. There's a period of hospitalization from 4 to 6 weeks. There are expected delays neurologically and physiologically. And yet I have no evidence that those issues have been remedied by either parent at this point. I do find that the evidence of the domestic violence in the home where both parents were residing also presents a risk of harm to the child. So the drug use, the criminality, all contribute to that. I also have acknowledged issues with transportation and now housing. I don't see either parent working at this time, so there are a number of areas posing a risk of harm to the children in the environment of both parents. So I do find that there's been a violation of the statute as far as mom is concerned, and a risk of harm as far as placement with father. He appeared to us today from Lenawee County Jail, which certainly also supports the need for placement with the department. I do find the violation of Section 1 has also been established. Technically, the language includes the parent or other person legally responsible for the care and maintenance of the child when able to do so, neglected or refused to provide proper and necessary support, education, medical, surgical, or other care necessary for the child's health or morals, and that the child's been subjected to a substantial risk of harm to the mental and physical well-being of the child for the same reasons I've already visited. So the removal is effective today. Placement with the brother is recognized formally and legally above that power of attorney, which I find is insufficient to provide the stability necessary for them to move forward, as well as use some of the funding that's going to be available through the department to help address some of the high-risk needs that this child is already exhibiting. The plea itself by Ms. Noelle Johnson is found to be knowingly, understandably, and voluntarily made with a full understanding of the consequences. I will ask her to address that warrant before she exercises parenting time in person. So if she wishes to exercise that, continue to exercise that sporadic, regular parenting time as it was described, that's perfectly fine. Obviously, we'll give another nod to the placement on that to coordinate that and to allow that how they wish to. But until that's taken care of, I'm going to ask mom to just keep her visitations to virtual in the event that she gets arrested, frankly. I don't want to put this child through anything else or the placement, frankly, or anybody else through that until that's been taken care of. We'll ask the department to conduct that FTM. Hopefully Ms. Johnson will get her warrant taken care of very soon so that that can be effective in organizing visitation moving forward and her participation in her child's life. But I also acknowledge that Ms. Heiss is accurate. He described the situation that she's not able to or has not taken the opportunity to create a bond with her child as yet, given the circumstances as I understand them. And so we're essentially going to be building a bond with the child, and I would like to see her take care of some of the really high-risk things that could pose danger to the child during visitation, namely that warrant, also extensive drug use and potential domestic violence. I don't want to see any of those patterns present themselves for purposes of visitation. So I will ask you to jump into those services as soon as possible, especially that substance abuse assessment and services and that warrant, and then the department can work with you on putting together a visitation plan that will work for you. Ms. Heiss is in satisfaction of her obligations. Thank you so much. Thank you. As is our department for purposes of the statutes. Thank you. Child is safe and most restrictive home with power of attorney and relative. That's it. Any questions?
Her disposition date.
Excellent question. How about July 1st at 1 o'clock? Okay.
Your Honor, are you showing MCI reviews starting at 1:30?
I am.
Okay.
I would anticipate there's only 2 right now, and then 2 more at 2 o'clock. So I would anticipate all of those beginning at 2 o'clock to allow us enough time for the disposition of the pretrial in this case. Because I think we can take care of those. I think we need a full half. Yes. All right. Any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
I think,
This matter while we wait for Noelle Johnson, the mother, to arrive from the jail for her initial disposition. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heiss, lawyer guardian ad litem.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. With me, I have Ms. Chelsea Grant, who is the CPS worker, and Ms. Brenda Burgess, who is the foster care worker. Ms. Grant, if you can say your name for the record, please.
Chelsea Grant for the department.
And Ms. Burgess.
Brenda Burgess for the department.
Michael McFarland representing mother who is not yet a parent.
Thank you. And Mr. Coleman, would you give us your name for the record?
Joshua Coleman.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ariel Berger here on behalf of Father Joshua Coleman.
Thank you. As I understand it, Mr. Coleman is awaiting DNA testing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. It has been scheduled for July 19th. It was scheduled for, I believe, the week of June 17th, somewhere in that week, but it was scheduled to take place at the department, and that had to be re-referred given that Mr. Coleman is incarcerated. So that is what has caused the delay. But Ms. Burgess has spoke with Mr. Coleman, and I don't know if you want testimony at that point or if you would just like me to make a statement, but either way, we're not ready to move forward on Mr. Coleman at this time.
Is the DNA testing rescheduled?
Yes, for July 19th.
All right. Well, let's go to you, Ms. Berger. Is there anything else that you want to be heard on as it relates to your client, or any questions for Ms. Burgess? We can swear her in if you need to. It sounds like we're just waiting for DNA testing for your client.
How do they plan to do that?
I'm sorry?
I just don't know how they plan to do it. Is someone going to go to the jail to test him?
Yes, Your Honor. The company that does the DNA testing does go to the jail.
Okay. I would just ask that it actually get done this time, because in my notes from June 10th, it says that they can still do the DNA test while he's in jail. So I'm just confused as to why it didn't already happen, because we knew that he was still in jail.
I'll be out of here before the 19th.
Oh, okay, Mr. Coleman, when is your next court hearing on the case that keeps you at the jail at the moment?
The 9th. Next Tuesday.
So your next court date is on the 9th, and what is that, if you know what it is?
Tuesday.
Like a pretrial or something, or what is it?
That is pretrial and probable cause.
Okay. Well, are you going to be able to keep up with him if he's not at the jail and be able to accommodate DNA testing at the office if he's not incarcerated?
Your Honor, so the referral that was put forth did indicate that he was in jail for some reason. When it was received, they did not schedule it that way. So then the department had to re-refer it. So we understand Ms. Berger's frustration on that point. We are aware of the hearing date. I believe Ms. Burgess has spoken with the probation officer, and it does not seem that Mr. Coleman would be released at that time. But in the event he is, Ms. Burgess is aware of that date and can coordinate accordingly. But if we have to reschedule, if we have to be referred to have it in the community, it may take longer than the 19th.
So if he's not incarcerated on the 19th, can the DNA testing still be done on the 19th?
I don't know. So I believe they are set up for specific dates at the department when they do the referrals. So if you're asking to send a second referral as like a backup, we can look into that.
That sounds like a good idea to me. What are your thoughts, Ms. Berger?
I would be agreeable to that, Your Honor. That way we aren't, coming back again and we still don't have it done. Especially now we know where he is now, so hopefully we can get it done, while he's there.
I have one question, Your Honor. The worker.
She's not sworn yet.
Oh. I mean, my thought is if he's not in jail, if he's out of jail, we know where he's at. Why can't the worker just go there?
Well, that's what she suggested, is that they'll make another referral as a backup plan.
Oh, I thought she said another date. I wasn't sure.
It might be because the workers are not the ones who perform the DNA testing.
Right, but he's gonna be down here if someone's in Adrian. Okay.
All right, Ms. Heiss, do you find it to be in the best interest of the child if I were to adjourn out Mr. Coleman's hearing to allow for the DNA testing.
Yes, Your Honor, the child's needs are being met in his current placement, and I think it's important that we find the biological connection between father and son.
Very great. All right. Our next court hearing in this matter will be the mother's first regular review. And I was looking to schedule that for 3 months out. It's the first week of October. Let me go back just a week so that we can make sure we have enough time for everything. How about Monday, September 23rd or Friday, the 27th? Any preferences?
The 23rd is fine.
That's fine.
All right, so let's schedule for
What time?
September 23rd. I'm pretty open, Ms. Berger. Do you have a preference?
It would have to be after 10 a.m.
I was going to suggest 10. Would that work, or do you need 11?
11, preferably, please.
All right. So we'll set Mr. Coleman's pretrial for September 23rd at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, we'll see you then. And hopefully by then we'll know what's happening with your case in our courtroom as it relates to the child. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. That's all we need from you today. Good luck, and we'll see you in a couple months.
Okay.
We did have the Lenawee, here we are. Mom has joined us, perhaps. May we have your name for the record,
Hello.
please? Okay, may we have your name, please?
My name is Noelle Johnson.
Noelle Johnson?
Yep.
Thank you. It's a little hard to hear, so we'll have to ask you to slow down when it's your turn to speak there.
Okay.
All right, we're going to be proceeding at this point with the initial disposition as it relates to Ms. Noelle Johnson. Ms. Heiss, would you like to start us off?
Yes, thank you. This family has a lot of strengths. One is that the child is placed with his maternal uncle and his partner, and they have organized everything needed for the child. They're meeting all of his needs. He is gaining weight, and the day that I zoomed in, they're in Grand Rapids. So the day that I zoomed in, the foster mother relative was home with the child all day, and they were having he is has developmentally appropriate toys and activities and foods, and he's sleeping well, and it's really nice that this family has that resource so that he's taken care of in the meantime. And I recommend that. I have received and reviewed the report, and the case service plan looks appropriate towards the goal of reunification. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. If Ms. Johnson can please be sworn in.
Come on up to our witness stand.
Oh, Ms. Johnson first.
Ms. Johnson. Oh, sorry. I'm still in the swing of things here. All right, so that's our, Ms. Johnson is appearing to us from the jail.
Good afternoon, Ms. Johnson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly, I have a few questions, okay?
Okay.
Do you know when you're going to be released from jail?
Yes, I get released tomorrow morning. It should be by 6 a.m.
And where are you being released to the community or to any like inpatient rehabilitation center or anything like that?
As far as I know I need to report to probation first thing in the morning. But other than that, I think I'm just being released. Yeah, I haven't came upon any other guidelines yet.
I could not hear anything after report for probation in the morning. If you could slow down just a little for us, please.
Okay. After probation, I think I'm just being released. I haven't been told anything further.
Okay. And do you have Ms. Burgess's contact information?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And did you have the opportunity to review the report that she wrote and the case service plan that is developed for you?
Yes, I have. I had it right here and I read over it a few times. I agree with everything in it.
Okay. So there's nothing that needs to be fixed or changed from your perspective?
Nope. As long as the visitation is all right, or I think it was 3 times or 2 times weekly, 2 to 3 times weekly. That's all I really worry about.
If you could slow, it's running together for us on this end. Just
okay.
Nice and slow, please.
I just want to make sure that I get the visitation. The visitation is the same as when we had all talked last. When was it? Maybe a week or 2 ago, before I had been incarcerated. I think it was about 3 times weekly, 2 to 3 times weekly. I'm pretty sure is what it was. And daytimes at night between 6 and 8 o'clock.
Okay.
But everything else is all right.
Okay, thank you for that. And you understand that the goal is for your child to be reunified with you or a legal father who may be appropriate?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And it's my understanding that Mr. Coleman may not be this child's biological father?
That is a possibility, yes.
Have you been able to discuss with Ms. Burgess or with Ms. Grant other names of potential biological fathers so that they could also be offered DNA testing?
We have not talked about names, but like I said, I get out tomorrow morning. And me and Ms. Burgess made a plan. I was gonna call her first thing when I got out, and we were gonna go figure out where we're gonna go from there, whether it be rehab, and I was gonna lay out those names for her.
Okay, so you do intend to assist in that way?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And the case service plan, it looks like it addresses some basic needs. So substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, housing, transportation, employment, those sorts of things. Is there anything else that you believe needs to be added to assist you in being stable enough to care for your child?
The only thing that my concern really is housing. Cause like I said, I'm not trying to go, not that I'm not trying. I am not going back to who I was associating with before. So that means I'm going to be at a shelter until then. But you guys have covered pretty much everything, and I really appreciate it.
Okay. With that, Your Honor, I have nothing further to ask of Ms. Johnson. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Are you going to, I don't want you to put on the record where you're going to be, but are you going to be in Lenawee County?
Yes, I should be, unless there's options for me up in Grand Rapids. But yes, it should be, I'll be around Lenawee County.
Okay. When we're off the record, will you have an address that you want things mailed to in addition to email?
Yes, yep.
We'll,
I can leave that.
We'll wait till we're off the record here.
Okay.
Anything else that you think you need to add?
No, like I said, I just want my visitation 3 times a week. I just want to start being able to see my son. Now that I took care of all my legal issues, I just want to be able to see my son. I'll do everything on my part.
Transportation, will that also be an issue for you?
A little bit, but I think between the person who's going to be supervising these visits.
Hey, hang on. Talk slower. We cannot understand, okay? So I said, is transportation going to be an issue?
Yes, a little bit, but we have talked with the person who's going to be supervising all of these visits in Grand Rapids or Lansing, and she said that I'm able to ride with her some of the times. But I will make it up there one way or another. I will make it up there to every visit.
If the agency can assist you, do you want any assistance they can provide?
Yes, please.
As far as housing, they will probably provide you list of places you can contact. Is there anything else you need more than that?
No, just housing and transportation to see my baby.
And you think you're going to be okay with, well, are you going to go to rehab, you say, perhaps?
If that's what Ms. Burgess wants me to do, I will go. But my probation officer, I don't think that's a requirement. But if Ms. Burgess thinks that is going to help or in any type of way get my kid back, and this is where I come home to my kid every night, I will do it. I will do whatever I need to do.
If you're not in rehab, will you need help getting a job?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the worker this, but she's probably going to want you to meet with her as soon as you get out of jail. Would you be able to do that?
Oh, yeah, yep, tomorrow morning. I already have to be down by the courthouse, and I already planned on getting a hold of her as soon as I got out tomorrow morning. So
I'll ask her some questions today to coordinate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Any questions, Ms. Heiss?
Just briefly, since you don't have any housing or employment in Lenawee, what would be your barrier to being in a shelter in Grand Rapids near to the child?
You said what would be the barriers?
Yes.
Honestly, I don't know. It was just an option that I had thought about recently. I'm like, if I'm already going to be in a shelter down here, why not be up there to one closer? I have no ties to Adrian anymore. So it could be an option. I don't know what options are up there.
Do you need transportation to get to Grand Rapids to discover those resources?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for your testimony, Ms. Thomas, unless you have any other questions for her.
I have none, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your next witness?
Ms. Burgess, please.
All right, Ms. Burgess.
You are the foster care worker for this family, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you just briefly summarize this is if there would be a substantial risk of harm if the child were to be returned to the mother today?
Yes, there would be.
And can you just briefly summarize what that is?
Ms. Johnson doesn't have housing or employment stability, and she's also has some substance abuse issues.
I don't know that this is included in your court report, but when Ms. Johnson was incarcerated, did her probation officer do a substance test on her?
Yes.
And do you recall what substances she came back positive with?
Cocaine, methamphetamine, amphetamine, and THC.
Was she positive for MDMA or alcohol?
I'm sorry, yes, those also.
And were you able to discuss the case service plan with her?
Yes.
And the current goal for the child is reunification, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as relates to the case service plan, have any of those services begun on a voluntary basis?
No.
Okay. And the child is with a relative, as Ms. Heiss indicated, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you believe that it's still the least restrictive environment to ensure the child's safety?
Yes.
And I know that mom has indicated she would like parenting time 3 times a week, but what was actually discussed for parenting time moving forward?
Okay. We had a family team meeting on the 21st, and we've arranged twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, 10:30 to 12:30. I have referred her for visitation coach and parent aid with Linda Edwards, and Ms. Edwards can transport Noelle to Lansing and supervise the visit on Wednesdays. And then on Mondays, I have a driver that can be paid to also take her to Lansing for the visit. We also arranged telephone or video calls between 6 and 8 in the evening because that's when the relative caregivers are home from work. And then once a month, the relatives agreed to bring the child to a maternal grandparent's home on the weekend where Noelle could visit at that home on the weekend.
Who would be supervising on that Monday visit if Ms. Edwards is not there?
Either the relative and or the volunteer driver.
Okay, either would be appropriate?
Either would be appropriate.
Okay. And if Ms. Edwards or the volunteer driver are not available, but Ms. Johnson's able to find someone, would gas cards be provided to that individual?
Yes.
Or to her to do that? Okay. And is there a need for confirming parenting time? I mean, this is kind of a long distance to travel for the child and for anyone else, correct?
Yes, we discussed that she would need to contact me by 8:30 in the morning to confirm that she would be visiting that day.
And if Ms. Johnson is able to find, or if you're able to assist her in finding a shelter in the Grand Rapids area, parenting time is going to look a little different. Is that fair to say? Okay. And you're aware of that and able to coordinate with her and the family?
Yes, and we have a courtesy worker involved through Ottawa County, and I would think that she could assist us with those types of things.
And just briefly, if you can give us a brief summary of the child's well-being currently?
He is doing well. He was hospitalized in June, mid-June. He had some breathing issues and was treated for, I believe it was some bronchitis, and I'm not sure if it was diagnosed, he was diagnosed pneumonia, but treated for that. But he is doing well now, gaining weight, and the caregivers are providing me with his medical appointments and also
letting Noelle know, and I am letting Noelle know as well.
Great, thank you for that. I have no further questions for Ms. Burgess, Your Honor, and would move to admit the court report and ask the court to accept the case service plan for Ms. Johnson.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay,
I
thank you.
just have a question.
I will call you.
Okay,
I will call you. Okay.
sorry.
Well, actually, usually we would break out, Your Honor, if she were next to me or that. Can I just ask her to ask me what question, and now we'll save time? What is it that you want me to ask of her?
So
And then I-
now since my work was taken care of, and remember how everything was suspended, like my in-person, like I couldn't go to doctor's appointments. I couldn't
Well,
go to
what's the question? I'll ask her the specific
am I able to
question.
go to that now on my own? Like if I'm made aware of the doctor's appointment, can I take?
You gotta slow down. You have to slow down.
You'd like to be able to attend doctor's appointments and all appointments with the child, correct?
Yeah, correct.
I'll ask some questions along those lines. Thank you. Am I right?
It's your turn. Yes.
If my client were here locally, she would be able to attend all doctor's appointments and other appointments, correct?
Correct.
If she goes to Grand Rapids, would that accommodation be the same, that she could visit or attend these appointments?
Yes,
If she remains here, is there a possibility that she can attend via the internet?
yes, and I think she has
Okay,
prior to her being incarcerated.
okay. Typically here, you realize that a parent has at least 3 visits, 2 hours a week if they're local, correct? Typically.
We are at least twice a week is what our
With this court, you're aware it's typically 3 times per week, 2 hours per visit, correct?
okay.
Is that yes?
Yes,
Okay. If my client were to move to the Grand Rapids area where the minor child is, would you support her having the same time that she would have here?
yes,
Okay. If she wishes to go to Grand Rapids, since she has no contacts in Michigan, provided that no other courts keep her here, would you arrange for her to go up there and help her explore what's available?
I can just facilitate her and assist her with doing that. Yes.
I mean, that would be cheaper than you paying somebody to do the transportation up to Lansing to get her maybe one time to Grand Rapids, right?
Oh, yes, for sure. We would provide transportation to Grand Rapids. Yes.
Okay. And if she does decide to stay here, you would assist with the housing, the transportation, and the other issues that she describes that she needs, right?
Right.
Would it be true to say the first thing she should do when she's out of jail is to schedule an appointment with you, correct?
Correct.
Do you think maybe a family team meeting to discuss where she's going to go from here, since she's now expressed that maybe getting closer to the minor child to break down a lot of barriers? Do you think that'd be helpful?
I mean, we can schedule a family team meeting. Sure.
Or is it faster for her just to come in and talk to you about these barriers?
I think we need to start out with talking about the barriers.
I would agree. Okay. And she has your contact information, correct?
Correct.
So if she gets out tomorrow, she'll contact you and schedule an appointment.
Right.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Heiss?
Thank you. Ms. Burgess. Is it your best recommendation that mom sets up her job and housing and resources in Lenawee or Grand Rapids? Which do you think is the better choice for reunification?
I had not thought about her relocating to Grand Rapids, so I'm not sure. I know the resources here in Lenawee. Her mom is here in Lenawee. In Grand Rapids, like I said, we have a courtesy worker that I can contact and work with her on resources.
If she's at a shelter in Grand Rapids, might have all those resources to help her also, right?
Yes.
I really appreciate that you have this schedule about Miss Edwards is going to do Wednesday, taking mother to Lansing, and the placement's going to come over. And then one more time a week you have it set up. And then maybe once a month, the child will go to maternal grandmother's and mother can go there. The minute we need to expand that visit, you must admit there's challenges.
Are you asking me if there's challenges with, yes.
If mom is 15 minutes late, then somebody is waiting in Lansing, not in their home. if mom no calls, no shows, are the other folks already on the road? We've been through this before. It seems hard to reunify a family with this distance, but it's possible is what you're saying.
Yes, and that's why she would need to contact me early enough so that the relatives would not start traveling to Lansing.
Okay. Will you be, is Miss Edwards able to do a drug screen? Perform a drug screen? And will this mom be doing drug screens on her probation?
Yeah. Yes, she is already on colors.
And was she doing the screens before she went to incarceration?
She was not.
So is it a condition of her visit that she does the drug screens?
Yes, she should be cooperating with her drug screens.
Because
go ahead.
The screen that Linda Edwards gives doesn't come back for the results don't come back for 2 weeks. Is that right?
Right.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay. Ms. Berger, I see you're still here with us. Did you want to ask any questions?
No, Your Honor. I just wanted to make sure I got good notes from my client so he could be fully updated.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Ms. Burgess, just briefly, I know that Ms. has sort of alluded to the screens from Ms. Edwards, but if mom is local, would it make more sense for her to, is it possible, I don't even know, to go to LDC before showing up for parenting time?
Yes, I'm not sure how early. I would have to look at their hours.
Okay, and that's part of the concern, but that might make more sense than waiting 2 weeks or however long to get screens.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any recross?
I do. As you know, I mean, with summer driving, accidents, construction, somebody could easily run 15 minutes late. If they're running behind and they place a call due to traffic or an accident that they're going to be more than 15 hours late, is she going to lose all of her visit?
No.
Okay. So she should reach out if there is some delay in the trip, correct?
Yes, and I mean, Miss Edwards or the volunteer would be driving her, and so we would know that she would be getting there.
As far as resources, one would think that Grand Rapids, much bigger, wealthier than us, would have probably more resources than Lenawee County does, correct?
That's true.
And if the minor child is there, if the placement is there, if my client moves there, and we don't have any biological fathers, only putative fathers, might make sense to transfer the whole case to Grand Rapids, right?
Good.
Nothing further.
Any questions, Ms. Heiss?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We return to your seats. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
My client's raising her hand, Your Honor. So yes.
Yes, Ms. Warren?
Has she been sworn? She has, right? Yeah. You have another concern. What's your other concern?
Okay, I just wanted to reassure you, so with colors, I'll be dropping 2 to 3 times a week.
Hang on. Slow down. Okay. Go ahead.
So with colors, I will be dropping 2 to 3 times a week and results are back immediately. So I can make sure tomorrow morning when I go see my probation officer that she said maybe that those results get sent to you guys automatically and that maybe we can get them to coincide with my Monday and Wednesday visits, if that would help you guys.
And you would also sign up. You would also sign a release so the worker could get those results?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah, and then second, that's all. I can't remember.
Okay. What are your thoughts now that you've heard everything about exploring Grand Rapids versus staying in Lenawee County?
I would love to explore. Honestly, there's nothing really good for me and Adrian but past baggage and things that have brought me down. I would really like to see what, and I wouldn't mind moving. It would be really cool, actually.
So will you have that chat with the probation officer to see if you can go to Grand Rapids to explore that, because that might be a barrier. Would you do that?
Yes, I will. I will talk to her in the morning.
And then arrange an appointment with Ms. Burgess and discuss all that with her, right?
Yes, I will. Correct.
Thank you.
And
Nothing
then
further.
lastly, I
Hang
do
on.
remember,
Sure.
so will I get my visit this Wednesday to see my baby? Like, when does all this start?
Well, I can call Miss Burgess and ask her when this would start, okay?
Okay, thank you.
It can't, practically speaking, it has to start once you're released from jail. And what you need to do is call Miss Burgess when you're released.
Okay, I'll
I
just
can
call her
answer.
first thing in the morning.
Good enough. Thank you. She's heard your questions, so she'll be expecting your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nothing further, no further witnesses.
Comments in closing?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we're just asking the court to adopt the case service plan as proposed. I believe that Ms. Burgess has a very good handle on parenting time, the logistics of it, and has heard the questions in Mom's testimony about the Grand Rapids, Ottawa County area. It seems that perhaps coordination with that courtesy worker would be helpful at this time. But with that, we are just asking for that 90-day review. And if we need to transfer venue between now and then, you know how to get that from you. Thank you.
I appreciate that Mom is not being passive, that she's being active in this case, asking questions, seeking direction, wanting to have visits, knowing that Lenawee County is a temptation for her. She's out to get a fresh start. She knows the direction to take is first talking to the probation officer, next speaking to Ms. Burgess, exploring those options. So, and if she has concerns, to call myself or Ms. Burgess at any time. Thank you.
Right. Ms. Heiss?
Your Honor, there are 2 older children who are in care with their other grandparent. So I'm asking the court to consider that the stability for this child is at the placement at this time. And if when mother gets into some recovery, I think she'll understand that this isn't a quick change to reunification, and that the burden of the distance is going to reduce her ability to really make a bond with the child. So for my part, I want to say that I think the best benefit for the child is reunification with the mother, who does her services and who visits and builds a bond. And for her to do that from here with no transportation and no employment, no funding, it's almost impossible. We have a lot of experience doing this. You have a whole bunch of human beings, including a baby, on the road 2 and 3 times a week. I'm sorry. And there's a lot of variables and a lot of room for error, so that because Mom indicates that she doesn't have connections, I really encourage the mother to make the services in Grand Rapids part of her plan so that she can get reunification and also build the bond at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's hearing. The child is in the safest and least restrictive placement. Given the circumstances, both parents remain incarcerated. Mr. Coleman awaits DNA testing to establish his rights as a legal parent to this child. Inquiries have been made for relative placements, and this child is with a relative and seems to be stabilizing. Lots of needs have been identified and continue to be identified for this child as a result of in utero drug exposure. We have developmental delays anticipated. Pyelochromotomy, which I have not heard of until today, exophoria of the left eye, and neurodevelopmental risk with a developmental consultation pending. And early on, referral has already been made for this child. So I wanted to bring that up because I want to just remind everyone, including Ms. Johnson, that the child is what is at the center of these proceedings. So yes, we need to build a bond with the child, but I think that what I would advise you today, Ms. Johnson, is that I hope you're listening carefully to Ms. Heiss's comments and recommendations, and that you look at this situation and decide which path is going to serve you best in order to reach your goal of reunification. But I'm going to need you to keep in mind that your child is at the center of this. So if transportation is too much for this child, given the challenges that are here, then it will be reduced. And we will expect you to take on your challenges, as you should, as the parent here, and work the services and do the best you can. And of course, the department will be there to supplement and meet its obligations, as it has here today with reasonable effort so far. The court is adopting the case services plan that's been proposed, that you've been able to review, which is good. You have a look at it. You know what needs to happen. I'll trust the department to implement visitation in light of the distance as well as the needs of this child. And we'll continue to work towards reunification in the next report period. Thank you to Ms. Heiss for her efforts in addition to our department efforts.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll have our next review in conjunction with the pretrial hearing, which is September 23rd at 11 a.m. So if you're able to join us by Zoom, that's fine. If you're able to join us in person, that's fine as well. But we'll see you back here September 23rd at 11 a.m. for the next review. In the meantime, we'll trust you to work on those case services and to do the best you can in making those efforts. And
Okay, thank
sure the
you.
department's doing this as well. The names of our participants, please.
Lee Heiss, lawyer guardian ad litem.
Ms. Saja
Brenda
Thomas,
Burgess.
counsel. Sorry, Ms. Burgess. Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Burgess.
Brenda Burgess, foster care worker for the department.
Katarina Dumont covering for Michael McFarland's for mother.
Okay, do we have Ms. Noelle Johnson with us this morning?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, are you logged in under the TCL?
What was that?
I think it's the phone looks like you're coming in from a like a TCL 9137W. Does that look right?
Yes, the tablet.
Okay. Well, okay, Ms. Heiss, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. I visited with the child by Zoom. He's placed in another county, and I was able to see that he has a caregiver home 24 hours a day for his care, and he's meeting his milestones. There are some developmental interesting things coming along, but they're waiting for early on, and the doctors and all these OTs that he sees regularly to tell us whether it's connected to his early birth and drug-dependent birth. There's a couple of requests that I have for the court today. There is a letter that's recently available for you to see that the doctors are requesting that he receive his immunizations. Mother did agree to flu and RSVP immunizations, but she did not agree to the COVID. So we would ask that you give the foster parents permission to authorize medical consent. There's also a My Chart function that the placement needs to have access to. He's seeing pulmonologists and all kinds of folks. This child was in the hospital and he was placed in it. He's 6 months old right now, tiny. Remember that he's 7 weeks when you adjust his age. So although he's been here 6 months, we adjusted by seven weeks. He was in the hospital and he was put into a coma so that they could intubate him. He was so sick. Mom called the hospital a couple of times to check on his health and called placement a couple of times, but she really was not involved in the medical care. Even the hospital tried to contact mom for direction, but at some point they allowed a foster parent to approve the treatment therapy. So I would ask you to consider authorizing foster parents for medical consent and also for the My Chart access. The child, because of his developmental medical health issues, it was decided by the foster family that instead of 2 working parents in the child in daycare, the mother figure, foster mother, would stay home with the child. And I think that's a really heroic decision to make for a child, and it's great to see the level of commitment. So I have received and reviewed the court report, and I would recommend continuing placement. We are at the 6-month mark basically, and I do agree that mother has had prior children in care, so she knows what it is that we're asking for, and I think a short term of case services, considering mom is not doing the case services, and whether she's heard it from anybody else or not, whether she's read the court report or not, she is not succeeding in case services in all the different categories that were evaluated by Ms. Burgess. So that concludes my report.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Honored. Ask that Ms. Johnson be sworn in. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, just to ensure that we have accurate testimony, are you under the influence of any substances that may impair your ability to testify today?
No, not at all.
Did you have the
Okay,
opportunity?
hang on one second. Ms. Thomas, your volume level is kind of low today from our viewpoint here. If you could tweak that, I would appreciate it.
Did that work?
Try it one more time.
Is this any better?
It's pretty low. Good morning, Ms. Berger. Sorry to keep you in the waiting room for a few minutes. Are you here for Joshua Coleman?
I am. I did get the DNA results stating that he's not father, but I didn't know that I'd been released yet or not, so I figured I better connect.
I think that's probably the piece that we're potentially going to be hearing about in a little bit. But Ms. Thomas, did you want to take a pause on Ms. Johnson's testimony to address that?
One moment, Your Honor.
Well, in the meantime, Ms. Heiss, did you receive a copy of the DNA test results?
I did, Your Honor, and I agree that it shows 0% probability of paternity.
All right, Ms. Dumont, same question.
Your, I did not receive them. I only received the public defender's office has given me, which is the most recent court report and the initial petition.
Thank you. Did that come in? Did those DNA test results come in a little bit later than our usual court report? Ms. Heiss?
Yes, I think it was between review periods. Let me look.
I'm not seeing it in my file.
I think it was sooner than the recent court report, kind of in the middle.
Well, Ms. Johnson, what that means is it doesn't look like Mr. Joshua Coleman is the father of the child. Is there anyone else that we could explore for legal parentage for this child that you are aware of?
Obviously, there is has to be another possibility. The name Edwards, possibly, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be a big deal for him to either be a part of his life. So I don't think it very necessary to, proceed any further with that. I don't know how it works with what the process is for you guys, but
well, do you happen to know, or have you seen Mr. Edwards anytime recently that they could, because they'll have an obligation to follow up with him. So is there any information you could give us to help with that?
No, honestly, there wasn't. Obviously, it was a stupid decision. And I was, sleep around. I don't have contact with him like that. We weren't really close or anything.
Do you have any older information for him?
No, I don't. I went through a couple phones since then. I apologize.
Well, that's okay. We just have to make sure that we've got everything we can find. Is he an Adrian resident, do you know, or is he from out of town?
Yeah, he's from out of town.
Do you know where he was last found?
Yes, in Ohio was the last thing I knew. Him and his family moved out that way. Like I said, I haven't heard anything in at least 6 months or more.
Okay. Okay, I imagine Ms. Burgess is probably going to be reaching out to you with any additional questions on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Johnson. All right, Ms. Thomas, back to you. Oh, you're muted.
Your Honor, is this volume better?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It was in the wrong setting there. Okay. Ms. Johnson, did you have the opportunity to review the court report that Ms. Burgess provided for today's hearing?
Yes, I did.
Is there anything in that court report that is not accurate based on your experience?
Everything was pretty much accurate.
All right,
do you have an
Ms.
explanation?
Thomas, hang on one second, Ms. Thomas, because I have a feeling Ms. Berger is going to want to jet out of here if she's not needed on Mr. Coleman. So everyone seems to have received the DNA results, although I would appreciate it if you could forward those on to me. Again, it looks like they didn't make it into my file. And then if we could address how you might like to move forward with that, please.
Yes, Your Honor. I can send that to you. Trying to find the email that Ms. Burgess sent me. I believe I received it late July. But at this time, if Mr. Coleman is not the biological father, I do not see a reason to continue with Ms. Berger being present on his behalf.
Ms. Berger, is that your position, or do you feel differently?
I do not feel differently, Your Honor. I would ask that my appointment end.
Ms. Johnson, were you married ever to Mr. Joshua Coleman?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. All right, any objection to Ms. Berger being released? Or to the findings that Joshua Coleman is not in fact the legal or biological parent of this child?
No objection.
No objection. All right, thank you for your time and service, Ms. Berger. The order will reflect that Joshua Coleman has been found to have no link with this child and that your services, although appreciated, are no longer needed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for letting me interrupt you, Ms. Thomas. You're welcome to continue with any questions for Ms. Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, do you have an explanation as to why you have not been in contact with Ms. Burgess?
I know I was not in contact for a little over a month. I was working and it was the wrong decision. I do want to be a part of my kid's life. I know you've already given me a chance, and I know what I need to do.
Ms. Johnson, do you currently have any warrants out for your arrest to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I do. Just through my probation officer, not any new charges or anything. I missed a drop. And I haven't spoken to my PO since.
What has been your contact with your child in this review period?
Like I said, when I was working and out of town, I didn't FaceTime or anything for about a month. And then I did get a hold of Brenda. I don't remember exactly what date it was. And I've been trying to regularly FaceTime and ask and be there for his appointments that I can, obviously considering I'm here and he's up there. And I was also told that with my warrants that I cannot get my visitation with my son, or else I would have been there for visitation with my son. So that has been a big stopper. I did offer to Brenda that I could come in and do drug screenings through her. Obviously, I know I need to take care of my legal stuff, but I'm not unwilling to go through the drug examination and the psych eval and the counseling and the parenting classes and the medical classes that I need to take to be able to take care of my son. I am up to date with his doctors, his physical therapist, his occupational therapist, with all that stuff. I know what he's eating, how much he's eating. And if I could have been there for visits, I would have.
Ms. Johnson, we were in court on July 1st, I believe, and you had stated that you would be released next day and you would get a hold of Ms. Burgess to discuss rehab and to inform her of other putative fathers' names. Did you ever do that?
I did talk to her briefly, and then the phone call got cut off. I did do the follow-up with I can't remember exactly who it was through, and they did put in something to where a referral for rehab. I don't feel like I need rehab. I don't have any drug charges. Drugs are not my problem. Like I said, I can piss clean. That's not a problem for me. I will do counseling and things like that. I don't feel rehab is necessary. It's just going to push things out and keep me away for longer,
Ms. Johnson, did in your CMH intake, did you tell them that you did want to do inpatient rehab?
No, I didn't.
So you did not indicate that you had suicidal ideations, but no plan, that it was due to stress you were under from your son being taken out of your care and placed with your brother, and that you did not want to complete inpatient treatment due to your history of substance use disorder, multiple substances, and cravings?
No, I did not say that I felt that I needed that at all. No, I said I would be willing to hear what she thought about it, and that I would be willing to do counseling and outpatient classes or anything along those type of lines. But no, I never said that I feel like due to the stress of everything going on with my son that I feel like I need it. And I do not have suicidal thoughts ever. No.
And you stated that you didn't have any new charges, but the court report indicates that there's a warrant for retail fraud, 3rd degree, with an offense date of July 18th. Are you unaware of that?
Yeah, actually, I am unaware of that. I mean, I know I had, when I was in there the last time, that there was a retail on it, but it was not of July. I mean, I haven't finished my court hearings for that charge. So, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Because like I said, I haven't went back to court for that after my appeal let me out.
Where are you currently living?
Europe.
Ms. Johnson, where are you currently living?
I'm living with a friend right now.
And have you given Ms. Burgess that information so she can see if the housing's appropriate for you and your child?
No, because this is not where I plan to keep or for my child to reside. I am working right now and trying, obviously, so working towards getting my own place. I don't know if that can happen within the next 3 months, but I mean, it's something besides living where I'm living right now is going to happen. My son will have a safe place to reside at, where she can come and do checks at. And And I do have an application has been put in through Housing Help for other resources and funding help or any other, any other options. So I'm still waiting to hear back from that.
You said that you were working. Where are you working?
I detail cars. One of my friend of a friend, they own a car lot out past the head shed. And I detail cars a couple days a week, just depends.
Have you provided proof of employment or income to Ms. Burgess based on that employment?
No, I have not. I'm still waiting for pay stubs. That'll be obviously the next thing. I will get that done today.
I'm having trouble understanding your responses. Ms. Johnson, could you repeat that one, please?
I said, no, I have not provided that.
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. But I can get those for you guys today, or get them to Ms. Burgess. And I can send you a copy of the housing and the MISHDA applications that I did put in.
Do you understand that part of your case service plan is to maintain contact with Ms. Burgess and to provide her the information required per your case service plan? Do you understand that?
Yes.
And have you done that?
I mean, I think the last time we talked was a little over a week ago, but I mean, she hasn't contacted me since, and I don't have anything new for her, but applications that I put in. I didn't know you guys wanted, or that I needed to copy or to tell her of every new appointment. I mean, obviously, once I completed something, I was going to bring it to her attention, but I knew we had court coming up soon. I've been at his doctor's appointment. I've been on FaceTime at his doctor's appointments, his physical therapy, and I have FaceTimed. I'm not going to say every night, but almost every night since I reached out to Ms. Burgess. I'm sure you guys have all that on file. And like I said, if I could go see my son in person, I would.
Stated that you were gone for a month working.
Yes, working and out of town. Yes, I did go to Muskegon.
And do you have proof of income from that month that you were working and not communicating with anyone?
No, I didn't, because it was under the table. It's not like it wasn't like a set in stone, this many hours for this much pay. I was helping a friend out, and so yes, there is income from that, but it was never stated that I needed to document every and any type of or else I would have.
What is your plan as relates to addressing the outstanding warrant?
What was that?
What is your plan as it relates to addressing the outstanding warrant?
Obviously, I'm going to take care of that because I'm not able to see my son until I do. I don't know what my PO is going to do, so I've just been working, and I wanted to get through this meeting, so at least I had some type of an idea. Like even if I go do 2 or 3 months, because I think that's my max, it's like 93 days. Like I wanted to see what my what happened here and what my PO's recommendation was going to be to prepare myself. And then after all that was more set in stone, I was going, I will go turn myself in. But if I go do 3 months, like I wanted to know what is going to happen. Like,
okay, I have no further questions of this one, Shannon. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt?
Ms. Johnson, are you still requesting that your minor child not receive a COVID vaccination?
No, at this time, no, I don't want my son to get a COVID vaccine. I still feel like he's too young.
Okay. And is there anything else you want the court to know with regards to the case service plan and your participation in
that? I'm going to participate more, and I will get more clarity from Brenda of exactly what she needs documented, and about how to move forward with rehabilitation and the inpatient rehab. Obviously, I need to get more clarity with her and stuff like that, but I do want to participate. And if I gotta go sit down and do them 3 months, I will go do them. But I want to be able to see my kid after, I'm not giving up on him. And I'm in a better position, and I want in a better mind frame. I know what I want to do. I have a job. I'm getting some type of stability. but I do want to participate. I will participate.
Thank you.
Yes, have you ever been married?
No, I have not.
Never, okay. And then in July, we were here and you said that you would name the other men who could be a father. Today, you've named one person. Can you name any other so we can get all the tests done at once?
No, I don't. I don't really. I don't have. No, I don't. No, I don't have any more information.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, it's hard to hear you again. If you could maybe move that phone again.
Yeah, no, I do not have any more information.
Okay, you don't have names. There are no other potential.
Oh, no, there is no others.
So if Mr. Edwards comes back not the father, you would have no other names?
No.
Go ahead.
No, that was all.
At one point, we talked about you getting services nearer to the child. Are you, when you say you put in a housing application, is that in Grand Rapids area or Lenawee area?
No, that is in the Lenawee area because as we had talked and I had asked, I wouldn't be able to get to see my son more, and I feel like it would be more of a stress and more weight on my shoulder to be in an area that I don't know anything about. I don't know a single person there. It's not like my brother and them would be of any help with that. I mean, obviously, if transportation might be a little easier, but I mean, I can make transportation. I can make it there twice a week to see my son. Obviously, if I was going to get to see him more or anything like that, or I was going to get more bonding or parenting time with him, it'd be different. But I mean, I don't think it's, I wouldn't just say safe, but I don't think, I mean, a whole new area, I don't know. There's probably there's tons more of all the problems that I have here. There's more of that up there too. And so.
Do you have the contact information for your attorney in this case, or do you need it?
I do have it. No, I do have it. I have all my paperwork.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Any redirect, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, any other recross questions for your client?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from? Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask Ms. Burgess to be sworn in.
All right, Ms. Burgess, come on up for a witness.
Good morning, Ms. Burgess. You prepared this court report that's in front of the court today, correct?
Correct.
And are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to it?
Not that I can think of.
And at this time, do you believe that there would be a substantial risk of harm to the child's life, physical health, or mental well-being if the court were to place the child with the respondent mother at this time?
Yes.
And what would that risk of harm be?
It would be, risk of harm would be medical neglect, domestic violence, substance abuse, criminal activity, homelessness, and financial instability.
And during this review period, have you offered, or the department offered Ms. Johnson any services to address those risks that you just mentioned?
Yes. So we discussed the CMH intake and inpatient treatment. And she did do the phone contact for that. But then after that, I had 2 phone conversations with her, July 2nd and July 8th. And I was not able to reach her after that. But we also had set up a parenting time plan with a parent or a visitation coach and transportation.
Okay, so the last time you spoke with Ms. Johnson was on July 8th, and then when did you speak with her next?
She had left a message on September 1st, and that was over Labor Day weekend, and I contacted her on, I believe we spoke on September 3rd.
And have you had any contact with her since then?
I'm sorry, I think it was September 4th that we spoke, and then I sent her an invite for an FTM. I sent that on September 5th, and she responded to that. The FTM was scheduled for September 12th, and she did not attend that.
You just mentioned that there was a parenting time plan with a visitation coach in place and transportation to be provided. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, when that was discussed with her, what the plan was and what the outcome of that plan has been?
We had had a family team meeting while she was incarcerated. So that was prior to her getting out July 2nd. And we had worked out 2 days a week. Our visitation coach, Linda Edwards, was going to transport her 1 day a week and meet the placement at a library. And then the other time, I believe it was Mondays and Thursdays, but anyway, the other time I had arranged for transportation through our community. I'm sorry, I can't think of her title, but someone in our office. And that was going to be through Lenawee Transportation.
And what did Ms. Johnson need to do in order to exercise that parenting time plan?
Actually, it was all set up, just confirm. We just needed to confirm where she was going to be so that she could be picked up.
Did she ever do that?
No.
Generally, your court report indicates that she is non-compliant with her case service plan at this point in time. Is that an accurate assessment from your perspective?
Yes.
As it relates to the child and the child's special needs, based on the information that you've provided, it seems that this little guy needs very particularized care. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, has Ms. Johnson participated in any of the appointments that would instruct her how to appropriately care for this child?
I know that she made calls to the hospital. And I know that she has, to my knowledge, she was on the pulmonology appointment, which was September 19th. But I was told that was only for about 8 minutes, and she didn't stay for the entire time. That is the only appointment that I know of that she attended with a service provider.
You heard her testimony that she's been on all of the appointments, like physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. Placement has been very good about communicating when she's had contact. But I don't recall her attending any other appointments.
I will say I was not.
Okay,
I was not
Ms. Johnson, it's Ms. Burgess's testimony now. We'll come back to you to give you an opportunity to respond in a little bit, okay?
Yep.
At this point in time, the child remains in a relative placement. Are there any concerns about that placement?
No, they're providing excellent care.
And based on Ms. Heist's report and your report, it seems that the relatives have also made some pretty life-altering decisions to ensure this child is taken care of. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For priority of services that Ms. Johnson needs to engage in, where do you believe efforts should be made from her?
I think she needs to take care of her warrants. And I think that I think she's in need of inpatient treatment.
Regarding the substance abuse screens or the drug screens, it seems that they're just random with probation. Does she have a referral through this case as well, or are you just asking for her to comply with probation terms?
I was just asking her to comply with probation terms. There again, I haven't, after July 8th, I had no contact with her. And I did attempt to call her on any number that she had used, you know, to contact the placement, and I didn't have any success.
In your report, you have a recommendation to reduce parenting time to weekly rather than twice weekly. Is that still your recommendation?
I'm sorry, I put weekly. The recommendation could still be twice weekly. That's what our policy says.
I'm sorry. I may have misread that or confused it with a different court report. So you're just asking for parenting time to remain per policy.
Correct.
And in order for Ms. Johnson to exercise parenting time, what is the confirmation cutoff for her?
I would need at least a week to arrange the transportation because of schedules, and it's quite a distance. So the week prior, but I would also need to know where she's going to be.
Would you also need like a day of confirmation?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to report to the court today?
I do want to add that during the visits, the Zoom visits, they've been anywhere from like 3 to 6 minutes, 8 minutes long. And it sounds like there's been other people there, and that she's showing the baby to other people, including possibly this Joshua Coleman, who she's had domestic violence issues with. So I guess I would request that she not have anyone else around when she's doing those visits.
Thank you for that. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Burgess. We move to admit the court report. And if everyone is in receipt of the vaccine letter and policy that Ms. Burgess sent this morning, I would also ask the court to receive that.
I don't have those or the DNA results, so I'd be happy to receive them.
Your Honor, I did email the DNA results to the clerks, just to ensure it could make it into the court's electronic filing system. As far as the vaccines, I don't know that it's entirely necessarily to admit that into the record. I can just ask Ms. Burgess a couple of questions on that point.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Burgess, you've provided a letter or note from a doctor indicating that it is highly recommended the child receive vaccines against influenza, respiratory, I'm going to butcher all of this, the RSV virus and COVID-19. It indicates that it's due to him being born premature. He's vulnerable to infections. Have you had any further conversations with medical providers on that point?
I have not. I received the information through caregivers. I did contact his PCP. There was a note in the file that they were going to provide a letter. And then this letter that I received, I believe we just got it yesterday, from the pulmonologist, and that is what I forwarded to, and I did not send it to the board. So,
okay, thank you.
That is the only contact I've had.
Your report indicates that the child was hospitalized for acute bronchiolitis and acute respiratory failure with hypoxia. He also tested positive for rhinovirus and enterovirus. Do you have any indication, or do you have any knowledge, just based on your contacts with the family or the medical providers, if those are respiratory infections and conditions, and if there's a heightened risk based on his prior hospitalization for being susceptible to the flu, RSV, and COVID?
I'm not sure quite how to answer that. Yeah, but I would say yes, that he does have a chronic lung condition, and those were related, his hospitalizations.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions, Ms. Dumont? Ms. Turner, Ms. Burgess, what is the department's policy on vaccinations when a parent objects to them?
So we are to engage the parents. I mean, regular immunizations, caregivers can have those provided. But when it comes to, of course, we want to involve parents always.
So I believe Ms. Johnson didn't have any issues with the minor child being vaccinated with everything but the COVID vaccination, indicating she believes he's too young for it. What is your take on that being her position?
That's just what I understand, that she was just objecting to the COVID vaccination.
And is it the department's intention to follow her objection, or?
I would hope that she could have a conversation with his PCP and make that decision after that.
Okay, and then after speaking with the PCP, would her decision be honored at that point, or?
I mean, I have no authority, but we're just bringing it to the court's attention today that that's what is recommended.
Okay. And then it seems like Ms. Johnson has a lot of hurdles to complete a portion of the case service plan, but you indicated inpatient treatment is going to be her #1 goal. You testified that she did do a follow-up. Do you know what rehab facility she did the follow-up with that was recommended through CMH?
She did not do a follow-up to my knowledge. The report, because I hadn't spoke to her, but the report had said that she chose Home and New Vision, and they gave her the contact information for that treatment facility.
And then if she is able to be entered into some sort of program, she should just maintain contact with you.
Correct.
I don't have any further. Thank you.
The letter that you were referring to, the person who gave you the information recommending the COVID-19 vaccination is Josephine Tenbrink, is that right?
Yes.
And she's a certified nurse practitioner?
Yes.
And the letter was dated September 22nd, 2024?
Correct.
And then there is a policy, a way for parents to do a waiver of those immunizations for religious or philosophical reasons. Is that correct?
Correct.
In this case, do you think the mother is updated and aware of the medical history for this child so that she can make a decision like this?
No.
Seems pretty complicated from the reports in your file, and you shared with me all the intubation that he's had and all the different medicines, and she's not aware of those documents, is she?
No.
Your recommendation is that mom be warned for termination. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, warning that her parental rights could be terminated in the next or subsequent hearings.
So just to be clear, mother is not getting a passing grade on her case service plan. Is that another way of saying the same thing?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Judge, not at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Dumont?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay.
No witnesses at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Comments and closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are really early on in this case, but I think that this child's critical medical condition really warrants some close exploration as to what is best for him moving forward. Ms. Johnson does not seem committed to this child's well-being. She has not kept in contact on a regular basis with Ms. Burgess. She seems unaware of what is required of her in her case service plan. I'm not sure if there's some credibility issues here as well with how often she's involved in the child's medical appointments or how often she is truly talking or speaking with the child. I think that the parenting time, we would like to ask that it, continue per policy, but with the conditions that there must be confirmation at least a week prior and then the day of within at least 4 hours from the scheduled time, given that based on our last hearing, the meeting point would be at a library, I believe in Lansing. I think that was the halfway point for the relative caregivers and for Ms. Johnson. I do request, Your Honor, that our next hearing be a permanency planning hearing. A lot of the testimony we heard today was very similar to what we heard in July, and there's been no progress and nothing really for us to trust a mother to engage in services or do what she needs to do for her child. So with that, we're just asking for that 90-day review and permanency planning hearing. Thank you.
Ms. Dumont?
Your Honor, Ms. Johnson did testify that she is employed. Hopefully she does get those pay stubs to Ms. Burgess today. So there can be one part of the case service plan that she's somewhat completed. And hopefully within the 90-day review period, she can maybe get into inpatient if she realizes that that's what she wants to do. And maybe work on some other recommendations.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm hoping that mother will be forthcoming with any possible putative fathers so that we can have them tested all at once instead of extending them over time. I think we've had this conversation before with her, but We're not asking who she thinks might be a good dad. We're asking who biologically could be connected to this child and asking her to disclose that within the next review period. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. It was our first regular review from Ms. Noelle Johnson. She has obviously had some challenges and developed some new challenges over the course of the last review period. Unfortunately, making return of her child to her care at this time too high risk. She needs to focus on finding a place to stay, stabilizing that and her employment, tackling her substance abuse challenges, and abiding by her probation terms in order to start making a safe place for herself and for her child. So many of those reasons were visited more in depth by our guardian ad litem and of course our caseworker. Thank you, ladies, for your efforts on behalf of the child in the last review period.
Thank you.
The order will reflect satisfaction of those obligations. Thank you to our attorneys as well for your efforts. This is a case where I do think that it is appropriate to set our next review as also a permanency planning hearing. Ms. Johnson, part of my obligations as I see them is to tell you the truth, which is that we're going to need to really see your best efforts in the next report period. It's my job to make sure that your child has a safe, stable environment. And your child, especially as we heard about today, has some really next level challenges, making the need for permanency and stability paramount. And we've even had one of the foster care parents agree to stay home to take care of this child because his needs are just at that heightened level. So we're going to need to see some serious effort from you in the next report period. Otherwise, I will have to look at making where he is temporarily housed his permanent home moving forward. So you should be aware of that in the next report period. I won't reduce the parenting time options available to you. If it's safe, I will say to Ms. Burgess, yes, please extend Ms. Johnson some parenting time. But of course, we'll need to be mindful of any signs of intoxication or other dangerous issues that may arise as a result of allowing the in-person parenting time. Also, it will be parenting time that you'll need to exercise on your own without the accompaniment of Mr. Coleman or anyone else. And mindful also of the fact that that warrant is out there. We're hoping to see you take care of that relatively quickly so that that particular risk is alleviated sooner rather than later. But as for right now, the child in his relative placement is in the safest and least restrictive environment, and that will continue pending our next review and permanency planning hearing, which I've scheduled for December 10th, 2024, commencing at 11 a.m. Unless there's any questions, we'll see you December 10th at 11 a.m. Thank you.
I do have a question.
1 second, I forgot to address the COVID vaccination issue. I would ask that Ms. Johnson be involved in the conversation as Ms. Burgess suggested with her primary care provider for the child, and I'll defer on that decision until our next report period. Your question, Ms. Johnson?
Okay, so my question, obviously warrants need to be taken care of and those will be taken care of soon, very, very soon. I'm not going to give you an exact date, but I'm going to be in contact with my PO and see what her recommendation is so we can all be on the same page about timing. But in the meantime, like I know you guys said visitation twice a week. Where does that stand? First off, my second question about medical things. Like at first I did give his doctor had my phone number to make me aware of all of his upcoming appointments and stuff like that. Maddie and they have not given me my charts. I have not been made aware of appointments. I have to every day that I call, I have to ask about upcoming appointments. So I don't think that's fair on my part. To be looked at as I'm neglecting it. I was also COVID. If his doctor says that they think that he really absolutely needs to get it, like it would be in his best interest, like life or death.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, I appreciate those updates, but I just simply asked if there were any questions on the point of parenting time. You just need to contact Ms. Burgess to arrange that. That's been the same since the initial disposition date. So she's your point of contact. Are there any questions that you have for the court?
Sorry about you.
Well, that's okay. All of the things that you're bringing up are great. Please communicate with Ms. Burgess so that she and you can stay on the same page and get some of those connections made for you. Okay? All right. Thank you, everyone.